everyone, and welcome to our Enterprise Performance Management Planning webinar. I'm Carla Roddy, the Director of Marketing here at Apps Associates. I will be joined by Kyle Gamble, our Director of EPM and Analytics, who will be reviewing EPM planning and doing a demo. Kyle will be available to field questions at the end of the demo. And with that, we'll jump right in.
Hi, and welcome to the Oracle EPM Planning webinar hosted by Apps Associates, where we're going to walk you through the application, discuss its functional capabilities, as well as its benefits to you as you look to impact your organization and continue to be that strategic business partner. So what is Oracle EPM? EPM stands for Enterprise Performance Management and is a suite or tool of products focused on the office of the CFO, so accounting close tools, as well as planning and forecasting and reporting and analytics. It is a interconnected, integrated suite, so you can grab the right tool for the right job, connecting all those different functions to be able to provide you what you guys need. Everything from financial planning and budgeting, which is the focus of this webinar, to close type capabilities like financial close and consolidations or account reconciliations. And there is also some niche products that help you be able to align your data, like profitability and cost management, and do other things like tax reporting or financial reporting for statements and SEC and things of that nature. So if you want to understand more of those, check out some of our other webinars. So what is Oracle EPM Planning? It is obviously focused on planning, modeling, and reporting. If you heard acronyms like EPBCS or PBCS or Hyperion, it is based off of the gold standard, the leading planning tool for decades now, Hyperion Planning, that has now been moved to the cloud, and it is a planning, budgeting cloud solution that allows you to model things and comes with some configurable models that you can use and add to. So the models are financials, workforce, capital, and projects, with some other areas that allow you to model what-if scenarios and multiple scenario planning, such as budget, forecast, multiple passes, as well as being able to bring in your actuals for your budget variance analysis. And then, of course, doing your reportings from your KPI metrics and ad hoc analysis, as well as your reporting packages that need to be sent out. So we'll dive into that as we see the tool. Some of the benefits that you guys need to understand up front is that it's going to increase your productivity and give you more visibility to help you impact the organization. By aligning that data and streamlining some of your processes, it's going to make you more effective and efficient. It's going to provide you some functional benefits, meaning that it's a platform that you can expand on as you're doing acquisitions or growing internally or growing with your sophistication in your finance planning or reporting. It's going to provide you the platform that is used by huge organizations down to small and anywhere in between. And it's also going to provide you some technical benefits, as well as they are continuing to update and maintain the cloud and put an enormous amount of investment in it. But it is also a very low TCO, since you're not having to host it internally and pay for that IT expense. It's also designed to be owned by its functional users, which also helps you guys be able to expand your reporting and platforms, deal with alternate views and hierarchies. So let's dive into the tool. The tool itself has a web interface as well as an Excel interface. So when we were talking earlier, it's going to deal with some pre-configured models that allow you to make the changes to it that reflect your business. So while it comes with financials, because we all need to produce our income statement and balance sheet and cash flows, it does allow you to configure with your own chart of accounts, your own entity structures, as well as bring other dimensions that might be useful to use, some product, channel, marketing, sales, things of that nature, that you're going to be able to bring in to help you understand what drives your business, as well as being able to provide the information for the right decisions at the right layers. So you have the financials model. Think of this as more of your chart of accounts level type of a view, where you're going to have account, cost center, entity, as well as some other dimensions if you need to that can plan your revenue and expenses. Projects is going to provide you the ability to do contract projects or internal, maybe R&D projects or initiatives and track those, or projects that might be capital that you can capitalize all or part of. Capital, of course, is your CapEx. It's going to help you with your intangibles and obviously tangible assets, being able to deal with your balance sheet and your expense line items as well. And then, of course, workforce. One of the leading cost of any organization, no matter what you make, is, of course, the people that are part of it. And with this allows you to be able to do by employee, or if you chose to, by job, or by employee and job planning at the wages as well as your benefits. This can be granular or very high level depending on what your needs are and what you want. And that kind of goes across the board. These are all configurable models. So let's actually dive in and show you a little bit of what this looks like. There are different types of planning processes that Oracle's done a very good job of making sure that you guys have those functional capabilities. One of those is driver-based planning, meaning rate times quantity types of calculations. Revenue is a great place for that because in general, you're going to look at things that are that way. So you're going to land on all the dashboards that are always nice to see, and then you can dive in to actually look at some of the driver-based planning. So in this case, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select the right year and a product that we might want to see. And in here, I'm going to select it. It's going to bring up the data that drives those calculations. So in this case, most of you guys, it's volumes times price with some other factors. Some of these come out of the box, but you can configure these to whatever drives your business and whatever things drive both your business and cost of sales in your calculations. So in this case, we have our drivers that need to either be input in or could be brought in by trend. So one of the other methodologies that they provide is trend-based planning. And this is actually kind of a combination of both, where I can bring in my volume and my average sales price plus all the other discounts and standard costs that are associated with that. And I can base it off of trend, or I could just type it in. I can increase it or decrease it, and it will provide me the information by month. Or whatever time horizons you plan. So if you plan multiple years, it will be at the annual, or if you do quarters or months, quarters, and years, we'll talk through that. And that's an implementation choice based on your horizons. Of course, when you're all said and done, you can increase it, but then you might need to adjust it, and you can adjust it by period as well. So this is an example of the driver-based planning. With this being a webinar that's a very high level, we're going to keep moving along. And the area that most likely we look at next is, of course, our expenses. We're used to dealing with the OpEx expenses, and this allows you to bring in that information. And I'm going to show you that second method that we were talking about was the trend-based planning. This is very good, especially in things like your operating expense, like maybe say G&A. So your office and general expense, I could come in here and I could select from a drop-down called a smart list that allows me to choose my selection of what is going to drive my cost in this area. So in this case, I'm bringing in my current year actual average, or basically your run rate, but I could also do other things like prior year, forecast average. You can see seasonality is in here, forecast for seasonality. So these drop-downs help you be able to make your selections, especially and really the two scenarios are on this one is one, it's a fairly known quantity, but it might fluctuate and you want to use your prior information to be able to plan your future information. It's also used to be able to bring in statistics. Final piece, which is really nice, is you can understand where the number came from. So if whether there is guidance or isn't guidance, you have support behind those numbers. So in this case, we chose a number, we increased it by 10%. And by that, it provided our calculated number, and we can adjust it if we chose to. So just to keep on this one, we'll change it to say 20% and come over here, we'll hit save. And as we're moving through this one, you'll see that we're going to be able to adjust this as well at the same time. And so we've made our 20% change, but now I know that I want to make sure I make an adjustment because in Q2, we know that we're going to have some extra expenses. And so say I want to type in $20,000. Here's some functional capabilities that are really nice just to help you with planning. A lot of times we need to plan at different levels. Sometimes you bring in your actuals that are going to replace the current periods that are closed, but you want to plan either keep things flat or make things at a high level. So as you're doing these, it allows you to manage by exception, but also as I'm typing in a number for Q2, it's going to spread back my information into the months. Now, what's nice with this is if there's a number that requires some seasonality, so if I have numbers in here, so say I seed my budget or seed my forecast from my budget, or I seed my budget with actuals or prior year forecast or something like that, this is going to allow for some seasonality. So if I wanted to, at a quarter or at a year, I could type in a number here. And let's just say we're going to make it 25,000. Now, it's going to spread back using the seasonality that's already there, which will, of course, help with your variance analysis. So it's some functionality that provides end users an easy way to get data in quickly, as well as be able to make it more accurate by using some of the information that's there already. This also is nice because if you have closed periods, it will take that into consideration. So if you have so much for the first, say 6 months, and then you're planning the rest of the 6 months, the amounts that I type in my annual number or quarter number will only take into consideration the forecast months that I want to get, so I can get my correct number at the end. So all very nice functionality. While we're talking about some other functionality is you have other actions that you can do where I can add commentary to help me understand what is driving that, and that can be attached to any type of intersection that you want. Supporting detail, change history is nice as well because it can tell me who changed what when. So if there's some number that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, you can understand its history, as well as making attachments. And those are the main ones that seem to be used quite a bit, is being able to do that. There's just some other trend options that you can probably see in some more technical videos. But the main thing that I wanted you to understand is there's the trend-based approach that I can use a calculation that will bring in information based off of history to make the selections, and then I can adjust them as needed. If I choose not to use either a driver rate times quantity, I choose not to use a trend, I can always just type in the number. And there are direct entry forms as well that allow you to be able to plan as well, that basically are similar to this, that you can just type information into. So that's our revenue and our expenses. Now what I'd like to do is move out a little bit and keep moving across the modules. If you want to have more information on any of these modules, check out some of our other videos that dive into these into a deeper look and feel. But I want you guys to understand the overarching nature as how these fit together and how they can help you guys out. So in the projects module, this helps you be able to plan contract, revenue generating type of projects, or internal expense projects. So with this one, I'm going to change my entity structure. So this obviously would be configured to your cost centers or entities that you use. And you can have alternate hierarchies with this. So you might have, say, a divisional view and a legal view. In this case, I'm going to be looking at some projects. So I've got my projects in here that have some start dates and end dates, and then I can plan from there. So I've got my contract projects that control my revenue, internal projects, or my capital projects, and I can break those down. For this case, real quickly, just to give you a quick feel of the application, we're going to pick on Project Diablo because I think it just sounds cool. So we've gone to our dashboard. We're going to go to Project Diablo and see what's happening with it. At this case, all these dashboards that you've seen up here are very helpful for you guys to have a visual view of both the metrics that drive your business, as well as the views that are more graphical in nature. With that being said, these are configurable to your needs. Within about an hour, we can take anybody and they can be off of the races building dashboards. It's a very easy to use tool when you have the foundation layered correctly. And as long as they understand the data, it's a very easy to use tool and very powerful to provide quick information to the right people. So in this case, we're on the expense side of things. Similar to the other areas, you're going to see that there are different methodologies for planning. So the project's worldview allows you to plan in mainly two different types of ways. The driver-based approach is going to provide you different areas for labor, material, and equipment that you can choose what those components look like, as well as provide. So in this case, labor, I can actually bring in employees if I chose to, and it will give you capacity numbers. I can bring in assumptions more at a job level. I can deal with materials and expenses and other to be able to build up my project. Or I could just go direct input as well and be able to select my cost expectations by whatever component that I want in here, and it can track it by project. And you can see here that you have multiple years in here, because obviously a lot of times our projects go past the normal time horizon that we might be planning our forecast or our budget, but it does allow us to track for a longer horizon. So projects is very nice. It can integrate whenever I bring in all this data to push information over to CapEx. So that's where we'll probably head next, is our CapEx module, which controls obviously the capital expenses both on the balance sheet side and on the expense side for both tangible and intangible assets. The investments allow you to handle your new assets. Existing can be brought in. Many times it can be brought in at the detail level, and then sometimes people just bring it in at a higher level and mainly manage your investments. So by coming into here, I'm going to actually go to my investment side, where I can obviously start off with my dashboard, and if I want to add a new asset based off of any piece, I can have my asset classes, which can be configured to what you guys want to have. If there's a project associated with it, this is where the integration works. If there was something that I pushed over from Project Diablo, or I can just have a new asset in here that might not be tied to anything. Where there's, in this case, there's an injection machine that brings in the factors that calculate what you need to see. There's some other pieces in here that allow you to have justifications and track them in different ways, because we all know that come budget time, there's a list of everything that everybody wants, and you go through it, and then you can take things in and take things out. And it's pretty straightforward. You just, if you need to add a new asset, you right click on the wizard, pops up. I can type in the information that allows me to add a new asset, and then my new asset is here that I can deal with. And then of course I can convert it whenever it does come into production, and it's going to provide me the information that's going to hit on the balance sheet as for both your whatever class it's in for your asset, and then of course the accumulated depreciation or amortization depending on its kind, and its depreciation and amortization expense will be flowing over to the financials cube. So to keep our high level moving, we're going to pop over to workforce, which of course drives a lot of the expense at most organizations. So in here, there's the compensation planning. When I talked earlier about configuration, this is one of the models that really is nice, because you can configure it as you need to, both for different entities around the world. So if you're an international organization and you want your assumptions to be different for the US than say France or for Asia, you can use those for the assumptions. This brings in both your employee roster data. So if I come in here and bring in my existing employees, it's going to show me my existing employees by, in this example, it's by name and by job, but it could be just by job if you chose to, and not have the employees in there. And you can bring them in at kind of an average salary and kind of bring them up if there's multiple pieces of that. So you have existing, and then you can do new hires with new requisitions. You're able to transfer employees through a mechanism in here. So if they change entities or different areas or jobs, you can manage that one. But by bringing your existing employees and doing that work for the users with the setup that's going to bring in the calculations, you've done a lot of the work that drives a lot of those conversations around a budget season. And then from there, you're managing exceptions where you're adding new employees or tracking their changes. And this gives you that mechanism to be able to do it by whether it be cost center or entity, or depending on what your structure is. And then for a new hire, it's pretty straightforward, similar to assets. I can come over here, I can click on what I want to add a hiring request, fill in the information as we move through here. One of the things I was going to talk with you guys about is as you work through this, you can deal with union codes, whether that's applicable to you or not. There is also salary options where you can have salary grades. So if your organization already has those defined, you can say, oh, this is a M1 or a S7 or whatever your structure is. So that way you can bring in your midpoints for new hiring requisitions, or you can always just go in there and type it in and just say, hey, look, the manager told me we're hiring somebody at X, and so therefore they're going to hire on this date. So I'm just type it in and move on the fly. And this will calculate both their wages and salary as well as their benefits and expenses. And then when it's pushed over to financials, it's brought in at a high level. So it drops the employee, so you don't have any kind of security issues, because we all know that that's an important part. So you have the inter-application integration between these modules because they have different levels of detail. So just in quick recap, financials is where you're going to be able to bring in information at a trial balance view, create your financials. It's going to be able to be fed by these other areas if those are applicable to you. If, say you don't use projects, then that's obviously not going to impact you, and you don't configure it. But if you do use projects and you want to push that data over, you can. Same thing with capital and CapEx. It's going to push that detail over to financials and your workforce. There's other areas to expand on that you can check out other videos on strategic modeling. And there, of course, with this, in general, these modules provide you anywhere between 50 and 75% of what your planning process is out of the box, which is really, really nice. And then it has the capabilities to fill in those gaps with forms, meaning capturing the information, calculations that are very powerful that you can write that will do pretty much anything that you ever need to. And it can deal with any type of volume. And so you're going to find that there's reporting cubes that can handle a large amount of volume. You can have powerful calculations as well as integrations of all kinds of different data sets. So that's the beauty of having a platform that can bring in multiple different sets of data, provide you your answers, and then provide you the detail if needed, or put it in ways that flavor the financials. What drove your change? Was it a volume change or was it a price change? When my workforce went up, was it because salaries went up or did my headcount change? So you can bring all that information in there so you can see it quickly and easily. And then it's in a single location, which is huge. As mentioned earlier, anything that you can do on the web, you can pretty much do in Excel, save the dashboards, but these are examples of input forms. So in this case, revenue trend or input or expense trend input form that we looked at earlier, which all connects to the same data set that is out there in the web that's brought into here that allows you to do your planning with a expandable or collapsible panel over here to connect to the web, either through forms or through actual ad hoc analysis, which is what I want to show you quickly for those of you who are familiar with other Hyperion or Oracle tools in the EPM space. It is the same SmartView Excel add-in that allows you to connect and slice and dice the data. With this being a multi-dimensional tool, you have your dimensions across the top, as well as the rows and columns that you can slice and dice and drag and drop. Many mention it as a pivot table on steroids, which is pretty accurate, except that it has a lot more functionality and can create standard reporting packages that allow you to make selections. It can update, it can do a lot of different things that have a lot of power around being able to create reports or slice and dice ad hocs. So in this case here, we could start off with something where we have our planning working for FY20 total, where I could double click and drill into things and create an income statement moving down from our revenue and expenses. And I've chosen the sales entity or a cost center, whatever you want to take on this one, and then be able to drill in and see information. I could also drag and drop my scenario and pull this in here and maybe compare, say, actual. Now for my actuals, I think it's FY19 is where my data is. So I'm going to bring in my prior year information by just typing it in. I could go use a member selection if I chose to and hit refresh and get my data. And then from here, it is Excel. So say I only wanted my total years now that I've drilled in, and I'd be able to then do Excel and be able to have the normal variance analysis and drill downs that could bring that information in. And depending on my configuration, I could even drill back to the source that might help me understand what made up the number that I'm comparing. So very, very powerful tool. Check out our other videos on that functionality. It's very powerful. It's very helpful for reporting, slicing and dicing, and ad hoc analysis. But it's only as good as your platform and your data. So your design matters tremendously to make sure that that's done the correct way so that your data is aligned. So when users try and look through it, that it makes sense to them, providing the right reports and the right analysis. So let me wrap up with what are the general next steps. obviously contact us. We can do more focused demos based on your needs. Generally, with a quick conversation, we can understand your planning process as well as what you're hoping to achieve, and we can kind of focus on that and do a specialized demo for you guys, as well as being able to understand any projects that you guys have going on. We can walk you through those. And then there are people who say, look, I have this problem. Can you help me figure out what tool aligns to that and how to get that done? And we do plenty of solution explorations as well. If you want to learn more, we have different series out there, from application introductions to technical ones, our best practice series. And finally, we have other focuses and workshops to help you be able to understand how to migrate to the cloud. So if you are a previous SmartView planning on-premise application that want to take it to the cloud, we can talk you through the process of getting there, both economically and efficiently, using the tool, as well as making sure that we bring over what you need. But if there's times that you need to expand your functionality to meet gaps, we can do that as well. So it's a great time to look at that. And then strategic finance, we offer an arm to help you be able to understand what that looks like from a strategic finance and underpinnings of technology, this tool and others as well at the same time. So look forward to the conversation. Look forward to getting to know you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Great. Thanks so much, Kyle. We did have a couple of questions that came in during the session. So I'm going to throw the first one out to you. And it is, what system can you bring data in from?
So the tool is data agnostic, although it has direct connections into any Oracle either on-premise or cloud-based application, and that has direct connections in, but it can bring in data from any tool, and it's very common to bring data across anything from HRIS systems to statistical information. It's an area that can bring in data from a lot of different areas and model it and present it for financial planning.
Excellent. Another one that just came in is, do I have to use all the modules? Do I have to pay for them?
Right. So generally, it is an iterative tool. You don't have to necessarily go big bang in the approach. So first off, each of these modules can be implemented or configured based on your needs. They can be done sequentially if you chose to. Or if you want to, you can build them over time. As far as the payment, it's included in the subscription. It is you pay for the modules when you buy the process, so there's no additional fees. You just pick and choose what you want to implement.
Okay, great. Just want to remind folks that they can utilize chat to type in questions. I do have another one here. How easy is it to write a report or a dashboard? Does it require training or special security?
Yeah, no, so generally users can create dashboards. Most of the time you have them as power users to kind of control your standard library of what's being out there. But within about an hour, we can take somebody who understands the data and the layout and be able to create dashboards. It's a pretty straightforward process. So most of the time it is a finance owned and operated tool. And that's the goal of this, is to allow finance to take and extend this out.
Okay, great. Those were the questions that came in. I don't know if you have any parting words before we jump off.
No, I appreciate everyone's time. And if you have further questions, just reach out to us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation with you.
Terrific. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We will send a copy of the recording out. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, Kyle.
Bye-bye.